Hey everyone, this is Ashton Bingham with MuseThemes.com. We've got a cool little widget for you today called Color Filters. Color Filters basically gives you one simple, universal way to apply various color and blur filters to a very large array of Muse elements, including images, rectangles, text, and even Google Maps. Our live demo here features several different design options, and you can pick from filters of grayscale, sepia, hue, invert, blur, brightness, contrast, and saturation, and the filters can be applied to the normal constant state or to the hover state or both, so lots of ways to customize here. And there's also no limitations to how many instances you can include on a single page. It will work as many times as you want, and you can even apply multiple filters to the same objects. So this can really be a big time saver, especially for those that are constantly having to prep images in Photoshop before loading them into Muse, or even using additional transparency layers in Muse to achieve those filters. So this widget removes the need for any of that. So I'm going to switch over to Muse, and what I have is a new project file with some various elements already placed for me to customize. We have a regular placed image here, a simple rectangle with a color fill, a text box, as well as a Google map, which was just pulled in from that standard default Muse widget library right over here. So let's drag out our widget from the library. And you're just going to get this single widget component. And the placement doesn't really matter, so it's best to just keep it off the canvas and out of the way. So let's first apply a filter to our placed image. First thing we need to do is set up a graphic style. So before going into the widget, I'm going to select the image. We'll open our graphic styles panel. And we'll click here to create a new style. And we'll name it Image 1. Great. Now we can pop open that settings panel for the color filters widget. And our first option, we'll need to specify the graphic style we're working with here. So I'll type Image 1. Next, we have our transition duration and style. And the duration is in seconds, so you just need to specify accordingly. We can go ahead and leave that at 0.8 seconds for right now. Now for the filter itself, all you need to do is expand the tab for whichever filter you want to work with. So let's start with a grayscale filter. Now inside each filter there are two fields. There's one for the normal state and one for hover. And in this particular case it requires a percentage as its value, but some of these will vary a little, which we'll see shortly. But for instance here we can start with a 0% grayscale for the normal state, which will leave the image colored as it is, and then we can go to 100% gray on hover. And that's literally it. Let's go ahead and give this a browser preview. And if we hover over our photo, there we go. We get our grayscale effect working perfectly. So let's play around with the rest of these. I'm going to go ahead and make a graphic style for our rectangle. We'll go with rectangle 1. And we can drag out a new color filters widget and enter our graphic style. Now let's go to the Hue Rotate. This one requires a value in degrees, like a rotation around a color wheel. So let's go with 40 degrees, which will be a pretty substantial color change. Great. Now let's make a style for the text box, but keep in mind that for text you need to make a paragraph style, not a graphic style. So we'll make a new one and we'll title it Text 1. And drag a new widget once again. Type the style name. And let's go to blur now. And for this one, how about we start with a blur, and then we can bring it down to 0 for our hover state. Awesome. And then one more style for our map. We can call it Map 1. Drag out a new widget and type the style name. Now let's check out Invert. This one just works with either a 0 or a 1, and that's for off or on. So we'll keep it 0 for normal, and then we'll turn it on for hover. So as you can see, many of these have different values, so just keep an eye on that when customizing, especially for things like brightness and contrast and saturation. because for those, 100% is actually considered the normal or default state, and then you can then drop it down or raise it up for customizing. So let's preview this once more. Great, so if we hover our image, we still get our grayscale. Now we can hover over our blue rectangle, and we get a nice shift over to purple. Now for our text, remember we started with a blurred normal state, transitioning to no blur on hover, just like so. And finally our map, if we hover, we get a complete inversion of color, which is pretty awesome. So that's it, guys. Enjoy this neat little tool, and if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to give us a shout. Thanks again.